So in a span of 4 days, I go from not having a show, being totally broke, being lost to shit in life, desperate, high in my car,
Hmm.
depressed, like wanting more in life, to interviewing Grant Cardone and Elena in Malibu on a set, smoking cigars.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have been cleared for takeoff. You are now flying high with Travis Lamance.
What is happening, Flying High friends? We are so excited. Today we have Omar Elattar with us with the Passionate Few. Very big fan of Omar's. Love the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Beyond excited to have you on the show today. So thank you for being here.
Oh man, excited to be on and yeah, man, just turn the tables. I know we just interviewed you, so
Yeah,
honored to be here on the jet doing it with you.
super fun. We'll flip the script around here and let you be in the hot seat for a minute.
There you go, turn the tables. Let's
Yes,
do it.
sir. So, man, I think most founders have some kind of a wound in their past that becomes their fuel. Is that the case for you? And if so, what was that?
Yeah, man. For me, before I started the show or built a production business, I started out kind of from, I would say, middle class, but my pain was born out of a lot of rejection and loneliness as a kid. I grew up in an environment where, I didn't, my parents were very loving and kind, but I didn't grow up in an environment where people valued conversation or interaction or genuine connection. So I never really had it as a kid. So fast forward all these years later, they say your biggest void is your biggest value. So for me, I remember being a kid, I was always the kid in class who had a million questions. I was always the person who like genuinely cared about deeper things, but it alienated me as a kid. Fast forward all these years later, I could see how that ended up being a superpower that paid off in a lot of ways. But yeah, man, it was born out of a lot of pain and a desire to do more, but a lot of frustration because my environment growing up didn't support my nature and my dreams. So when I had the opportunity to grow up and, kind of dent the universe in my own way, I ran at it. I couldn't wait to do it.
Was there a particular point in your life that something like broke you and
Yes.
later that became your superpower?
Yes, there was several times, but the first one was a girl by the name of Gabrielle Munoz.
It's
Um,
always a girl.
yeah, yeah. And I was like 13 years old, 14 years old, and I like fell in love with this girl, or I thought I did. When you're a kid, you just, anybody you like, you love. And yeah, I just fell in love with her. I was always like a popular kid in school and stuff like that, and I just remember my whole life changed because when I was 13, 14, I fell in love with this girl, and she like professed her love to me, but I was too shy to say anything. And then the next day, I saw her behind my locker, freshman year of high school, and she was kissing one of my friends. The day after, she professed her love for me back.
Right.
And I just remember, man, that devastated me to my core. I think every man or woman can relate
For sure.
to those early years and that first heartbreak or whatever it is at some level. But for me, I remember that day like it turned me cold because I went from being a nice, loving kid to like having a bone to pick with the world.
Right.
And from that moment on, it was like I'm gonna be a fucking winner.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna be in a situation where I'm hoping and wishing and waiting for someone else to pick me. I'm gonna pick myself.
Right.
And it wasn't about like being successful so that I get X, but just I don't know what it was, but at some level it was like I'm never gonna be a victim again.
It flipped a switch, huh?
It flipped a motherfucking switch,
That's
man, in
awesome.
a big way. And I just became a killer in my own varied ways. At that age it was like skateboarding. I know we talked about a mutual interest
Yeah.
for that. So when I wanted to skate a handrail or learn a flip trick or ollie stairs, in my head I would play these weird games where I'd be like, "Oh, if I can't land this trick, that's why she doesn't like me." Right? It was stupid. It didn't make any
Yeah.
sense, but it gave me a bone to pick with the world and a fire,
It was a motivation.
a huge, big time motivation to win because it
Yeah.
hurt so bad to lose her.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I know you've interviewed hundreds of people. What's one question you ask
Yeah.
that changes people?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think one of my favorite questions that I ask and that I see like shifts in when I interview billionaires or people who've done epic stuff is something to the effect of, what's the biggest misconception about either what it took to get here or what it's like on this side of the fence versus what it's like when you're a younger person dreaming of what it would be like when.
Right.
Because I think there's like a gap that I think most people on this planet probably wish they could make $1 million or $10 million or 100 million or whatever, and a very small percentage actually end up doing it. And so when you have people who've been from zero to go do big things, and you ask them like, hey, what's the biggest misconception? A lot of times that is, in my opinion, the juiciest answer that I see really transforms or opens people up, because they go, man, that's a good question. Probably that it's actually easier than you think, or that it's simpler than you think, or that it's, they'll say things like, oh, it's more about guts than skill. Kind of like you were sharing on your story, right? Where it was like you could have worked for 50 years and not leveled up at the same level of just taking one, for lack of a better expression, big, massive action that could have gave you 20 years of leverage in one move, right? To own the aviation thing versus just work your way up, for example. So I think for me, that's a question that I think opens people up is, what's the biggest difference between what the young version of you thought it would take versus now you've achieved it and what it was actually like? Because then you can balance out the difference, and then it contextualizes it for people who might still be in that lower version striving, And that's who I do it for. I do it, like when I started interviewing people and doing the show, a lot of times I would see successful entrepreneurs interviewing other successful entrepreneurs. And although that was interesting, that always for me left me wanting more, because, it's one rich guy or gal talking to another rich guy or gal, and and there's a disconnect. How am I broke at home, smoking a joint, watching this, going to implement anything?
Right.
One guy's talking about his jet. The other guy's talking about his mansion. I can't connect to that. So for me, I always did it for the man or woman who's broke, lost, depressed, struggling in anxiety, in the middle of a breakup, in the middle of chaos, in the middle of pain, depression, anxiety. I'm doing it for them. You know what I mean? So I think for me, that always drove me. I never forgot what it was like once we started doing well or having a little success. I made a promise to myself to never be the cool guy where, oh, it's cool. To me, it's always surreal. I'm always grateful that I get to do amazing things like this or meet some of the most incredible people in the world. I was just with Tony Robbins and got to meet him. So I never take it for granted or think I'm a cool guy. I'm always in gratitude because I know what it's like to be that young person looking for answers. Even if it seems like everything's fine on the outside, we all want more. We're all hungry for more. And so I do it for that person because I know what it feels like to be in pain and want answers and not have them.
Make it relatable.
Make it relatable. Make it relatable. And there's probably millions of people that would love to meet the people that me and you rub elbows with or rub shoulders with. So it's never lost on me to ask questions for them.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is a story you can share or not, but early on, whenever I first met you, you had told me a story about camping out in front of this guy's gate or house, waiting on him to capture him as a guest or a client. And is that a story you can go into?
Sure, yeah. Well, I've done that a few times, but the first time was with Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
So when I started my podcast and YouTube channel, I saw that Grant and Elena, they lived in Miami. Obviously, they live in Florida. And I saw that they flew in on the jet to California. They were in LA in Beverly Hills. And at the time, I was living in California. And I saw on his Instagram story, Grant was talking in a video. And Elena, very faintly in the background, was like, hey, Grant, are we still going to, XYZ restaurant at 8 p.m.? And he was like, yeah, babe, we're still going at 8. And then he kept going on his Instagram story. But it was a very subtle thing in the background. You know how Grant is kind of raw, real? So it was like a subtle thing that I don't think most people caught. But I heard it, right? And I caught it. And I was at a precipice because this was several years ago where I had gone from, early on in my life, I was a skateboarder and I was trying to become amateur and pro. And so I did it my whole life. I gave my whole life to skateboarding, and then I did some acting. I was in a Warner Brothers movie. And so I always had these like passions that I would take to a certain point, but then it would fizzle out, right? And so I had this desire to do big stuff and achieve big stuff, and I would get momentum, but then it would peak, or I would plateau, or I would self-sabotage, or whatever it was. So I had this habit of doing that. So fast forward, I end up working in solar, and then I end up getting recruited to Tesla. So I have this career of momentum that I always achieve a little success and self-sabotage. So I was, at the time of the Grant Cardone and Elena thing, I was in this combustion point of inspiration and desperation. And so when I saw that happen on their Instagram story, I thought to myself, fuck it, I wonder if I just drive to Beverly Hills and just see what happens. Fuck
Right.
it, right? So I literally drive. I remember asking my dad, and my dad was like smoking a cigarette. And I'm like, Dad, I have this crazy idea. What do you think if I do this? And he was like, you have nothing to lose. Just do it. So I was like, all right. So I drive like 3.5 hours, 4 hours through traffic. I drive to the restaurant in Beverly Hills, and I'm waiting outside, and I'm nervous as shit. My heart's racing. I'm in anxiety. I'm sweating. I park at the time I had a 2013 Toyota Corolla white.
Nice.
The cheapest car at the dealership.
Yeah.
The cheapest car possible. The most base model. So I park and I'm in Beverly Hills, right, with a white Corolla. You stick out. So I like park around the corner from the restaurant in Beverly Hills. I couldn't afford the valet. So I park around the corner, and then I walk all the way down to the restaurant, and I'm like, man, this is stupid. What am I doing? I can't believe this. What am I thinking? I'm just gonna go up to him. What do I say? I'm nervous as hell. But I figure, F it, I'm already here. So I end up waiting outside the restaurant for like 2 hours. And then I go in to check, right? Like I go in to use the restroom, and I tell the hostess, oh, my family's coming. They'll be here shortly. But I just went in to scope out the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in the restaurant, and I actually see Grant and Elena. And I'm like, holy shit, this idea worked.
They're
Like,
actually
I can't
here.
believe this. So, but I didn't want to go up to them or be rude. I wanted to be respectful. So I end up going to the restroom. I come back outside, and I wait for like another hour. So we're now like 3 hours in. I'm waiting outside the restaurant. Anytime the door opens, my heart's racing. Is it them? Is it them? Is it them? Oh, it's not them. Then the door opens. Is it them? Is it them? It's not them. So I'm going through like a heart attack, anxiety attack, nervous. I'm broke. I had to borrow gas money to get there. It was terrible. But by the grace of God, he ends up finally coming out, and I'm like, all right, this is my moment. And I end up walking up to Grant and Elena, and I was just like, hey, excuse me, Grant. Something to the fact, excuse me, Mr. Cardone. And he turns around and he's like, hey, man, how can I help you? And I'm like, hey, Mr. Cardone, I just want to say, it's a pleasure meeting you. I was in door-to-door sales. I used to sell solar door-to-door. I used to work in Tesla. I've listened to all your sales training. I just want to thank you for all your work. And he goes, how the hell did you know I was going to be here, man? He goes, did you drive knowing I was here? And I was like, well, I just want to be honest. I was like, I heard Elena say it, and I live in town, but I'm not a weirdo. Don't worry. I just wanted to shake your hand, meet you.
I'm not a weirdo.
Yeah, I'm not a weirdo, which was totally weird. And so he starts laughing or whatever, and he's like, you drove all the way here, 3.5 hours just to shake my hand and meet me? And I was like, yes, sir. I was like, consider me the young man you once were with a dream. And he was like, oh, I like that. I appreciate that. And I was like, yeah. And then I got this like gusto of inspired idea. At the time, I didn't have a podcast at all.
Right.
And I said, hey, Grant, I said, I'd love to, I said, I know you're in town for a couple weeks. I know you would normally never do this. I know it's a crazy idea. I know you're busy, right? I brought up all of his objections in advance, which is part of his sales training.
It is.
It's like you bring up all of the reasons he's going to say no before he does, right? So you bring it up first. So I said, I know it's a crazy idea. I know you mentioned you're in town for a couple weeks, but I would love to interview you on my podcast or YouTube show. It's in post-production, right? We haven't launched yet, but we're, interviewing a bunch of CEOs. I'd love to interview you on the show. And he looks at me and he goes, did you just drive 4 hours here just to ask me to be on your show that doesn't exist or something like that? And I start, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. But he starts laughing. He goes, I'll tell you what, man, I like your hustle, kid. He's like, I'll tell you what, I'll do your podcast. He goes, here, grab my assistant's number. He gives me his assistant's number. I think that was like a Friday. And then they end up reaching back out, and he's like, I'll do your interview. He goes, can you do next week? So we end up getting it confirmed for Tuesday, which was like 3-4 days later. And I'm like, yes, absolutely, that works great, And but I had no money, no clue how to do it. So now I'm like, shit, I got to find video people and audio and all that. So I didn't have any money. So what I did was I started calling all my friends, like, hey, do you have a camera? Do you know anybody that does video? Do you know anybody that does video? And finally, people referred me to a guy who charged like $500 for the shoot. I didn't have $500 at the time, and so I negotiated a net 30 invoice for a $500 production thing.
That is phenomenal.
So the production people are like, okay, like that's weird. Why do you need 30 days to pay $500? And I was like, oh, like, you know, I didn't say I was broke, but I was like, oh, just because it's launching in 30 days. I don't know what I said. But anyways, they agreed to it, and they're excited that it's Cardone, so they're down to do it. I end up cold calling real estate offices, just cold calling real estate offices to actually have them sponsor the show. So if you watch that first episode of the Grant Cardone, you'll notice in the very beginning, this episode was brought to you by a real estate office. I cold called a bunch of real estate offices and said, hey, look, I'm interviewing Grant Cardone, and I'm looking for a sponsor for the episode. We're not making any profit off it. I just want to cover the $500 cost of the filming of it.
Right.
And so I found this office. I called a bunch of offices. Finally, one said, yeah. They were like, this guy's crazy. Like, what the hell? But they do it.
It's
and
real
so they
estate
pay
and
for
it's
it.
Cardone, so.
Exactly. So in a span of 4 days, I go from not having a show, being totally broke, being lost to shit in life, desperate, high in my car, depressed, like wanting more in life, to interviewing Grant Cardone and Elena in Malibu on a set, smoking cigars with him and his wife. And we end up filming that interview, putting it out, and it gets like in the first week like 200,000 views or something.
That is so crazy.
And right away, that sort of like launches my career. I start getting messages from all over the country. People start wanting to hire us for production. And so I started a production company when 30 days prior I couldn't pay a $500 invoice. And then they introduced me to Ed Milet, and then so I do that. That interview gets 500,000 views. He introduces me to her and him, and so all these doors started opening. But it literally like was 0 to hero, and so it was weird because I tell people often that in the game of life is kind of like chess. Mm-hmm. You can win in 40 moves, or you can win in 4 moves. Mm-hmm. And it's the same chessboard for everybody. We all have the same amount of chess pieces, right? The days that we have and the tools that we perceive we have. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that I was smart or anything. It was just that I had the balls to fucking go for it. Yeah. You know, I could have told myself a million reasons why that idea is stupid, why it won't work, why whatever, but it worked.
Yeah. And
so then I did that for him. For the creator of Hot Cheetos, he was doing a speaking tour on churches. And Oprah had tried to interview him. A bunch of people had tried to interview him. He said no to everybody. Mm-hmm. This guy went from being the janitor at Frito-Lay to pitching the CEO on this idea for Hot Cheetos, and it ended up becoming a multi-billion-dollar product. And it's crazy because a lot of people wanted to capture his story, and I had heard about it, but I was on a mission. So I went to 4 different stops of his church tour all over California. I would drive for hours. And I'd wait for him to get off stage, introduce myself, and pitch him to get on the podcast. He said no the first time. And then I had to wait another 2 weeks and drive 6 hours. I went to his speaking tour, got off stage. He said no. Third time, no. And then finally, the 4th time, I went to his speaking event at a church, and he got off stage. And instead of me going up to him, he came up to me. He came up to me, and he was like, man, you're so fucking stubborn. And I said, same line. I said, consider me the young man you once were. You know, I know you were a janitor making $3 an hour, and you persistently talked to the CEO because you had a vision. So I'm not trying to bother you. I was just always came from that respectful angle of, I'm the young version of you. Mm-hmm. And I think every person in life who's highly successful at some level had to make a move like that, right? You mentioned in your story where you cold called the guy and did some... Yeah. So I just always tried to appeal to that thing because I knew I wasn't going to win the logical argument. Mm-hmm. So I just did that, and finally he goes, all right, I'll give you your freaking interview. So we ended up doing an interview with him. That ends up going super viral. It ends up getting on Good Morning America. Fast forward several years later, I believe somebody from 20th Century Fox had seen the script, and then Eva Longoria goes on to produce a film on his life story. They premiered at the White House, and Mr. Montañez, who went from being annoyed by me being so persistent, actually invited me to the premiere of the film of his life story, which is adapted from the story of the interview I did with him, and I couldn't even believe it. Like, how do you explain that? And I remember those days so fondly, man, because I was super broke. I literally was borrowing gas money
Yeah.
to get to places. The day we went to interview Grant in Malibu, I literally had to borrow $60 from my sister
Yeah.
to just to have the gas money to get to do the interview. And I borrowed my dad's suit pants and shoes. Like, that's how much I was like totally didn't belong there. But I was so fucking determined. Like,
Yeah.
fuck reality. I'm just gonna full
That-
speed ahead. And yeah, I mean, I have so many stories like that, but those are just a couple of them.
Well, that goes back to the whole thing that we were talking about on the last set with not letting fear hold you back. You know, I
Mhm.
bet there was probably several other people, probably lots of other people that heard Elena make that statement, and you're the only one that took the initiative and got off your ass and went and figured out how to get to the restaurant and how to
Right.
make that connection. And that's so true to life, right? It's just the people that'll actually take the initiative to act on that thing their gut just tells them,
Hmm.
I need to do this. And most people let fear and doubt creep in and stop them from doing.
Yes. And I also find that that's where the magic is.
It is.
The magic is in the last second thing that doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
The magic is, like, even for example, I had just another story is like I had a brief stint in real estate as an agent. And I remember I went into the office and everybody was cold calling all day long, and everyone's trying to sell $500,000, $600,000 properties. This is when California was semi-affordable. So people were trying to, everybody in the office, all the new agents were cold calling properties that are 500,000, 600,000, this kind of thing. And I remember just going in there and like total, just oblivious to, right, naivete, right, ignorance is bliss. I was just like, oh, why don't you guys call like the $5 million homes? It's the
Right.
same exact paperwork, same exact process,
A whole lot more commission.
and 10 times the commission. So I remember my first cold call ever in real estate, and to be honest, it was out of laziness more than anything. It wasn't out of me being a genius.
Yeah.
Because I just thought with the podcast, I'm like, okay, I could interview 300 people and then tell myself one day I'll interview Cardone, or I could go, fuck it, let me just ask him. You got to,
Yeah.
and fast forward years, and you know what I mean, which ended up happening.
Collapse that timeline.
Collapse the timeline. But it was subconscious. It wasn't conscious, but it ended up working out. But when I got into real estate, my first day in the office, my first cold call ever, I found the most expensive home in a local city. It was $5 million, and I cold called the homeowner 2-3 times. He didn't answer, and it went to voicemail. And I left a voicemail. By the way, I had never even seen a listing agreement. This was my first day ever as a real estate agent. And I cold call, nobody answers. And instead of hanging up, I left a voicemail. And I left a voicemail. I was like, hey, my name is Omar. I'm calling from Keller Williams. We saw your property at XYZ. I'd love to chat with you on how we can maximize the dollar value amount and see what we can do for you. I actually have something super cool I wanted to show you. I had nothing cool, but I just said that so he would call me back.
Right.
So I say that, I leave a voice memo. I end up going to lunch with some of the people, whatever. I come back, and he had called me like 3-4 times, left a voicemail, and wanted to set an appointment. My first listing appointment ever in real estate was a $5 million
Wow.
house, just because I had the guts to like call him.
Right.
Whereas other people could spend all year long calling $500,000 houses and maybe close 1 or 2.
Right.
And so I think that showed me that, like, oh, the chess thing.
Mm-hmm.
Life is like chess. You could struggle for 10 years, or you could spend the next 10 days doing some really hard shit that opens up opportunity that you would have never anticipated. So that's kind of how my journey started, man. It was
It's crazy.
inspiration, desperation, and a lot of just like imperfect action. And
Like fortitude.
fortitude. And to be honest, there's a lot of stories where I did stuff like that and it didn't work.
Right.
There's more stories like that. I have a story where I probably shouldn't share it, but I was trying to get Jerry Seinfeld on the show, and I was like, man, how am I going to get this guy? Who am I? All these limiting beliefs show up. And so I found out that there was man, I hope they don't see this, but fuck it, it'll be good for the archives. I saw that there was a charity event that Seinfeld and his wife were having at Warner Brothers or one of the studios. So I ended up driving to the studio, and these studios are super high security, whatever. But I drove to the studio, and I started circling around it, and I have no plan. I'm just like, oh, let's just see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I won't say exactly how I got in, but let's just say there was like caterers and vendors and stuff like that. And so I kind of
You
joined the
kinda,
crowd
yeah,
in,
kind of blended in
kind
there,
of
huh?
blended in, and then I ended up inside of the Warner Brothers studio, and I'm like, shit, I'm inside now, and I like make my way, and I go to this charity event. There's all these celebrities and actors and movie stars that everybody would know, and it's just my random ass with my 2013 Toyota Corolla. Like, shit, what do I do here?
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, and I didn't get a chance that day to turn it into anything, but like I have so many stories like that where I just tried to get in the door or tried to wait outside of offices and balance being respectful and
Yeah,
not a weirdo,
yeah.
but also being elegant on the mission. So it was very lonely. Needless to say, I wasn't dating at the time.
Well, and
But yeah,
that is a hard balance to strike, right? With where you don't come across so crazy and so weird that you just turn them off.
yes. But I
But
also knew that I was young,
yeah,
and I knew I could kind of, because I was in my 20s at that time, so I knew that I could
play the
hide
ignorance
behind
card a
that. Yeah,
little.
play the ignorance card or play the I'm just a I probably couldn't get away with that as well in my 30s or 40s, right?
Right.
So I kind of knew that that was on my side, but yeah, man, I was so hungry. I was so sick of fucking losing. I was so fucking sick of losing that I was just like, man, I just want to fucking win.
The pain of losing overcame all the challenges and objections to winning, right?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely, man.
So when you jump through all these challenges and hurdles and all these things that you have to do to get one of those guys to sit down and talk to you,
Yeah.
how do you get people on that level to open up and be truthful with you in a conversation?
That's a great question, man. Honestly, for me, and I'm very grateful. I've been complimented tremendously on how I do interviews.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, for me, it's that I genuinely care,
Yeah.
and I think that people feel that,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that for me, maybe an advantage was that when I started it as a broke, lost, depressed dude.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was asking questions, I wasn't asking it to like build a brand or to
Right.
just get answers out of you. I'm asking because like So what was step one you did when you were broke to get out? Because I was in
You're
that
learning how to
situation.
do it.
Exactly. So I was asking from a place of genuinely caring. Step one, step two, step three, because that's what people listening want to know.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what it feels like to be someone and two billionaires are talking, and in my head I'm like, yeah, but fuck, how did he go from living at his mom's house
To there.
to like step one, and then
Yeah.
what was step two, and then what? Okay, and then clarifying step two. How did you do that? How did you know to? How did you find out about the guy to call to? Because those are the details that
For
if most
sure.
people had, they'd act on.
And they usually get brushed over.
Correct, and people dismiss it. So for me, it's just that I cared about the details because I was asking questions for me to get out of
Mhm.
my situation, not to build a brand or to whatever. And I think people feel that when you genuinely
Makes
care,
sense.
people feel that.
This episode is brought to you by Haven ASG. Looking to buy your first private aircraft or upgrade your current bird? Travis and the team at Haven Aviation Services Group has you covered. From finding the jet of your dreams to selling your old model, our expert brokerage teams handle every detail, connecting you to the right deal for the right aircraft every time. Visit havenasg.com/flyin high today for your custom experience to begin. Again, that's havenasg.com/flyin high, or just click the link in the show notes. Now back to the show.
When you're doing these interviews, is there ever a question that you've been afraid to ask that you felt like you should have?
All the time. I actually, that's a great question. I actually dealt with that a lot. It would piss me off a lot. Like it would, every time I would leave an interview, I would drive home and be like, I would beat myself up in my head. Fuck, why did you say this? I should have said this. God, that was so dumb. Why did I say that? I used to do that a lot. But then I started doing a ritual where before every interview, I even did it today. I always, whether it's in the restroom or whatever, I just do a little like 15-second prayer. And I just say, please God, give me the strength, the wisdom, the courage, the persuasion, the curiosity to ask the questions that matter and forgive myself in advance for anything I forget. Give me that power now. Amen. And I roll.
That's awesome.
And so I just have a little prayer I do, and I just forgive myself in advance.
That is so good.
So it's a little hack I came up with.
So good.
Otherwise, I would just beat up on myself all day long. Oh, I should have asked this. I should have done this.
It's
but
so
I-
easy to relive those conversations and be like, oh, I should have this, I should have that.
Right. And then also because a lot of times they're once in a lifetime opportunities,
Mhm.
I might not always get to meet some of the high level people I do all the time, right? Sometimes you can, but yeah, and then when I started doing that, I feel like that gave me a presence to like just forgive myself in advance. And I think anybody who truly cares about what they do always feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit, I should have done this one more thing, or I should have, oh, this one little detail, or I could have done this to make it extra special for the customer or the client, or but I think that's a good sign. I rather have that than be numb to it
Yeah.
and just not care.
Have apathy about it. Yeah. Anybody
Exactly.
perfecting their craft is going to second guess what
That's
they're
right.
doing. When along this journey did you realize that storytelling and interviewing was like a superpower for you, and what did you do to develop it and make it as great as it is today?
Thank you for that. To be honest, man, I'm so grateful because I didn't struggle early on with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a crazy way, because I didn't care about views, I ended up getting a bunch of them.
Makes sense.
You know what I mean?
It does.
Because the experience was always the same to me. Whether I interviewed someone and it got, I have interviews that have gotten millions and millions of views, or it's something that gets 100 views, or a couple thousand views or whatever. To me, I never was attached to that.
Mm-hmm.
I was always attached to the human experience. Right. And to me, that was always the metric. So I think to answer your question directly, when people started telling me that, I was actually kind of put off at first, but it felt good because it was natural. It would be like if people all day long complimented you, "Damn, Travis, I love your fucking hat. The way you wear that fucking hat," and you're like, "Oh, I'm just wearing my hat."
They do.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's a good looking hat. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, for me, I just love to do
weird,
it.
Though.
Yeah, I love to do it, and I'm just so grateful that I found a way to use my gift and build an audience and a business, and it resonated with people, and it's never lost on me, man. We just interviewed Rick Ross in Miami a couple months ago, and
you're just gonna drop that all casually that we just interviewed Rick Ross.
No, it's not casual. Well, I'm saying it because
it's awesome. That's crazy.
I don't say it to impress you guys. I say it to impress upon you. I'm forever that little kid in my room wondering how the hell I'm going to pay for the Taco Bell meal, right? I've never lost touch with that dude, no matter, what I achieve or whatever. And I made a promise to myself to always hold a space for that and never be too cool for school. But I'm like, sometimes I'm sitting on a set and I have these moments where I look around and I'm like, fuck, Rick Ross is on my show. There's all these cameras.
It's so crazy.
I have like millions of people who view my stuff. Like, how did this happen? How do I get to be me, right? Not from an ego place, but from a very humble place of like, damn, this mindset shit really works. Like you can, like, and it's cool because when you interview these people, I've interviewed the $1 billion founder of Quest, the creator of Hot Cheetos, CEO of Netflix, CEO of Reebok, say Rick Ross. We just got Tony Robbins confirmed. Like, so when I'm in the store and I see Hot Cheetos, I'm like, oh, I know that guy. Yeah. When I see someone wearing Reeboks, oh, I know that guy. When so it builds. When I see Seinfeld on TV, I actually got to meet him, even though he didn't get on the show. Mm-hmm. There's a sense of connectedness that, like, damn, I turned these beliefs into connecting with bigger shit than me. Like, how's Rick Ross talking to me right now? Like, how's this
real life?
How's this real life? Yeah. But see, that was always the dream for me. Yeah. The dream for me wasn't to be this cool guy or women or any of that stuff. To me, I wrote down in my journal is I want to fill my life with as many surreal experiences as humanly possible.
That's so crazy.
And, I had a life coach ask me one time, he said, Omar, if life was perfect, what would happen next? And I was in a rock bottom moment at the time, and I said, I would inspire millions of people, I would make millions of dollars, and I would surround myself with the most inspired people in the world. Now, at the time, I didn't know what that would turn into, but fast forward, and I'm like, oh, shit. It makes sense.
You're living it now.
Right. Yeah. Right. And, I'm forever in gratitude to the fact that these imperfect steps just kind of worked. I don't know. I don't even know how it worked. I'm just grateful to be on the ride, Shit.
That's all we can do is be grateful for the ride, right?
Amen, man. God is good. A lot of focus went into it, but yeah, man, I heard this thing from Steve Jobs. He was like, once you realize that everything around us that we call life was made up by people that are no smarter than me and you.
I love that expression.
Every airplane, every building, every camera, every piece of clothing, everything ever created was made up by people like me and you
Mm-hmm.
who start out as babies on the floor, goo goo gaga, they
Mm-hmm.
can't walk, they shit their diaper,
Yeah.
and they go from that to building skyscrapers or
Right.
impacting millions of people. I've always been obsessed with that process. How do two people live on the same planet and one person's broke, lost, and depressed, and another person is, flying private jets with you? How does
Right.
that happen? We have the same blood, the same vessels, same
Mm-hmm.
skin, same brain matter. We're all made of the same material. We all have the same resources on
Mm-hmm.
planet Earth. Maybe we're born in different environments, but how we use the vessel that is life, I've always been obsessed with that. So for me, that's the game: is how do I maximize the chess pieces I have?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So obviously, you've talked to a lot of very influential, high power people, entrepreneurs.
Yes, sir.
Would you say there's a common misconception that a lot of people have about those people?
Yes, I think most people have no idea how hard it has been, and how many challenges. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who built big businesses that have repeatedly told me that they were days away from bankruptcy or had to file bankruptcy a time or two or couldn't meet payroll
Mm-hmm.
or sleepless nights or they're in the middle of trying to pay payroll. Their wife is divorcing them because they don't have enough time for them. One of the kids is in and out of rehab, and your chief of staff quits to go after you developed them for years to go work for another company,
Mm-hmm.
and you're dealing with all that on the same day.
Right.
And you're sick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And no one's there to help you. No one's going to pay your bill, and you have a client upset about something, and you're just sitting there in the middle of it, like, fuck. How do I deal
Why
with
did I
it?
ask for this?
Yeah, why did I ask for this? Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
I think most people have no idea the depths of how resilient you really have to be.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those guys have dealt with days that people can't handle or wouldn't want to
Mm-hmm.
handle. And business is like that, man. You know how it is business is about, dealing with the situation I just mentioned and then waking up and then solving it somehow and then waking up the next day and dealing with it again for
And
years.
inspiring the team along the way.
And inspiring the team, paying the team,
Yeah.
recruiting,
Yeah.
and then you do all that, and then your wife's like, "How come you don't have time for me?" And you're like, "Oh my God!" But we
Yeah.
had plans and all this, and you're selfish or whatever it is,
Yeah, for sure.
So I think it takes a certain amount of resilience to where, honestly, they deserve it, man. In my
Mhm.
opinion, people look at people with cars or jets or mansions, and they're like, "Oh, they're greedy and but it's like, dude, do you know how much shit they ate to get
Right.
there? They deserve two of them,
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a great expression. It says, overwork and get underpaid until you can underwork and get overpaid.
It's true.
And I think they're just willing to roll the dice on that.
I definitely agree with you in the people that I've dealt with that the level of resilience that you have to exhibit to get through that shit is phenomenal. Like it's like 0.01% of people that can put up with it. It's not an intelligence thing. It's not a
No.
It is purely being able to eat shit for years on end.
Yes.
And wake up with a smile and
Yes.
and rally the troops around it while you're going through all that.
Oh, emotional management.
Yeah.
Emotional management. Yeah. I mean, dude, I remember times where, man, man, I was trying to build the show and I was in massive debt at the time.
Mhm.
And it wasn't debt because I'm buying dumb shit or anything.
Yeah,
It was just me
building it.
investing in the
Mhm.
show, building. And there was times where, dude, I remember at one point, for me at the time, I was probably like, man, probably like 180,000 in debt, which to me at the time was like $10 million
Mhm.
of debt. I was like, oh my God, how am I gonna on a show? Like, what the hell am I doing? But a lot of times, the silver lining is like born out of that is, that pressure of that inspired me to get creative and figure out a deal with a company, a software company that ended up being a $200,000 sponsorship deal.
Nice.
And so in one check, I could have worked all year long and not made 180 grand, but because of the pressure of having to solve it and having a deadline, I had never made more than at the time, maybe 30, 40 grand in terms of top line revenue for the business. And when you're 180,000 in debt, you're like, oh my God, that's
Right.
pay. Like, how am I gonna, I got to fire the team. How embarrassing.
Yeah.
And I have a show with billionaires. Who am I to, right? All these limiting beliefs, man.
That imposter syndrome
Imposter
going
syndrome. And I have no references.
on.
Other industries, if I was a real estate agent, I can look to my right or left and ask questions. But as a podcaster with a production company, who am I going to talk to?
Yeah.
Who do I look at? No, I can't relate to anybody. All my friends at the time were kind of envious of what I'm doing. And then the other guys are like too big that they're going to look at me like I couldn't have my shit together. So I'm in the middle of it. You're very alone, and I have to still hold the show and be confident. Hey guys, welcome to this episode, right? So it was brutal. It was brutal for a lot of years, but the pressure of that, by being resilient, you have these breakthroughs. Because that $180,000 debt, I remember, I was like 5 days away from owing it, and I was just shitting bricks, man. I couldn't sleep.
What am I gonna do?
I started smoking cigarettes. I don't even smoke cigarettes. I started all sorts of shit, bro. But out of that, it inspired me. I was like, fuck, I have to find the way, right? So I started writing emails to companies, because we were still getting millions of views on the stuff, but we weren't monetizing it. And so we started writing emails to companies, found a sponsor for 200 grand, and in one chess move, paid off all the debt and was 20 grand up. And that allowed the ship to stay afloat. But had that not happened, who knows what would have, so but yeah, I mean, that's just one example. But yeah, the resilience, especially when things are new to you, it's like you're learning on the fly. So yeah, there's a lot of that, man.
I experienced a lot of that personally on, like, in the private aviation space. I'm a little tiny minnow in the sea, right? And so I'm dealing with people on my level, but like how you said, that the next fish is so big that they're not even going to look at you, and there's no one in your circle that really understands. And I totally relate with that, because my company is in the private aviation world is nowhere near big enough to compete with some of these huge companies out there, and I don't have those direct upper end confidential relationships with those guys. So I'm over here trying to build this thing on my own, and you get up to your eyeballs in debt to grow it. And like you said, it's not spending money on stupid stuff. It's just what you have to spend to make the thing grow. But you're like, well, where do I go with this? How do I do this? And there's so much.
And will it work?
Yeah, will it work?
And you're like, damn, cash flow doesn't show that I could hire this person for a year, but I need to hire them. I have enough to pay their salary for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
But fuck, just faith. But then but then they have kids. And then you're trying to get clients. And so yeah, dude. So when I see entrepreneurs who put up with that for years, get the biggest house you can, my friend.
Yeah.
Buy the biggest jet you want.
Yeah.
Date who you want. Like, do whatever you want, brother, because you have paid your dues.
Yeah.
And I think most people think like billionaires are just greedy or something. And just
well,
unfair.
That's the whole premise for us starting this, right? Is that we hear those comments all the time, being in the private aviation world, that they drive me absolutely batshit crazy. All that spoiled this, that silver spoon, that trust fund, that. And man, I just love the people in this industry that own these airplanes, and the reason why is because of the things you're explaining. They're willing to put it all on black and go after it. They're willing to step out and take the risk. They're willing to eat shit for years on end to earn the privilege of that. It's just something that physically shows up in the world as a representation of all the shit they've went through to get it.
Right.
And
well said.
And it so underserves them for the people that don't understand it. They just look at it that way, and it drives me crazy.
Totally. And also the other thing too is that they're all just like us.
Yeah.
Like I met a gentleman who owns some hotels. He's a guy from Texas, actually. He owns some hotels in California. Big real estate guy, developer. He has properties and hotels and stuff. And I remember I was talking to him, and I was like, dude, how did you have the guts and confidence? And he goes, dude, I had no money. He goes, I literally just called Marriott. I asked them how much the franchise was. I got the number. And then I started calling people to find if I could figure out partners who had the money to do that. And then I would run the operations. And I was like, but you had no experience. And he was like, yeah, but I can ask questions.
Yeah.
And so just being stubborn about, like, I don't see the way, but I'm gonna, for lack of a better expression, delude myself into thinking there is a way. And if you do that long enough in a crazy way, the path reveals itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the thing is and the other thing too that I think that the inspired thought that I've always had is your dream, everything somebody's going to have.
Mm-hmm.
Your dream wife, in terms of the interaction of it, your dream home or house, your dream business, your dream plane,
Mm-hmm.
your dream whatever. Somebody on this physical planet made of the same skin and bones as me and you
Mm-hmm.
is going to have it. They're going to
Right.
live there. They're going to fly that. They're going to make love to that person. They're going to have exactly what you fucking want and desire. Why not you?
Right.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not? Right? And so I just became obsessed with figuring out what do the people who get what they desire do versus the people like the majority who are lost and stuck and, wondering what to do end up at. And that's why I called the show The Passionate Few.
Mm-hmm.
Because, kind of like the Marines, the few, the proud, the Marines.
Right.
So for me, the idea of naming my show The Passionate Few was it takes tremendous amount of passion to be resilient in what you're doing, and there's a few people who do it. This podcast is the stories of those few. So that was kind of the initial idea of the show and naming it that way.
Was there like a belief that you had to kill about reality yourself in order to make this transition to become who you have?
Absolutely. I'm not worthy.
Why me? Why do I deserve it? Kind of
Right,
stuff.
exactly. Yeah. I have no business. What the hell business do I have doing with Rick Ross?
Right.
Well, I have no business. And this guy moved his plane out of the hangar, and they got a mechanic and security. Like there's a whole operation. I'm like, how the hell is this on my show?
Right.
I was like, it makes no sense. But then in the kind of way it makes perfect sense because that's what they did to get in their position. That's what you did to get in your position, right? So I think for me the belief is that I'm not worthy, and I think the new belief is if it's gonna be, it's up to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think,
oh, that's good.
Yeah, I think kind of like I just mentioned, it's like everything you want in this world, somebody's gonna have it,
Mm-hmm.
and just fucking why not you? Your dream house, no matter your biography, no matter my mom, my dad, my brother, my tragedy, this person died,
excuses.
this person's sick, I'm going through this, well, I'm older, I'm in my 40s or 50s, or I can't this, or no matter what, there's somebody from every background. I don't care what it is. I interviewed Sister Madonna, who is the oldest triathlete in history. She's in her 90s.
Oh, wow.
She started running in her 70s. And she's literally, phenomenal human being. So no excuse on age. Mr. Montañez, who created Hot Cheetos, was a janitor at Frito-Lay who dropped out of school in the 9th grade. He used to joke with me that he spent more time in prison than he did in school. And this guy went from making $3 as a janitor at Frito-Lay to being the co-founder of the $1 billion product that is Hot Cheetos.
Right.
So there is no excuse. No matter what's going on, there's always a path to your dream life. It might be unconventional, it might be emotionally hard, it might be confusing, but the path exists. Will you walk it, or will you let someone else walk it? Because somebody is going to live in your dream house, somebody's going to have your dream everything. Why not you? Why not now? That's the anchor I always go back to. Rick Ross is going to be on somebody's podcast. Tony Robbins is going to be on somebody's podcast. Why not mine? Right?
Funny little sidebar for you.
Yeah.
My mother, she died pretty early. We lost her in her 50s, but she was a Hot Cheeto fanatic.
Really?
Like, dude, we teased her so much about how many Hot Cheetos she ate and all this. So when we buried her, I actually buried her with a bag of Hot Cheetos.
No way.
Yeah.
I love that, man.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That is so cool.
It was fun.
I will tell Mr. Montañez. He'll get a kick out of that.
We
That's
literally,
beautiful.
when we all went and put something in there, that's what I put in there was a bag of Hot Cheetos with her because we teased her so much about being a Hot Cheeto fiend. So
oh, man.
that's
My
fun
condolences
to hear
about
that,
your mother, but that's beautiful, man.
Yeah, it is what it is, But
yeah.
It's funny hearing you talk about the Hot Cheetos thing because that's what I'm going through in my head. I'm like, that's crazy. That guy, as the janitor, his persistence, he turned a dream and a thing that he was passionate about into something that affects a lot of people in a weird way. It's a food. Like, who
Mm-hmm.
cares? But it was like my mom, she was really sick for a long time, and it was like one of her joys in life was getting her bag of hot Cheetos for the day. And
Wow, that
yeah,
is so
it was
incredible, man.
so fun.
I'll definitely share that with
You
him.
need to tell him.
He'll get a kick out of that.
That
But
was
but yeah,
awesome.
it was like this guy was a janitor making $3 an hour, and he literally picked up the phone and cold called the CEO and got in trouble, got reprimanded.
Yeah.
What the hell is the janitor?
Calling the CEO
What the hell is
for
the Mexican janitor doing calling the CEO of Frito Lay? Like, what the hell? He actually got reprimanded, and they tried to block him, but the CEO was like, um, "That's interesting," and he called him up to his office. So he ended up going to headquarters, ended up having a meeting with them, pitched the idea for Hot Cheetos, what the vision was in Latin markets, and he ended up becoming, he ended up getting a piece of the deal, and he ended up becoming the vice president of, I believe PepsiCo acquired Frito Lay, so he
hmm
ended up becoming the vice president um, in the U.S. of PepsiCo for like a certain division.
hmm
From the janitor to that, with no credentials
That's
other than
crazy.
faith. He jokes that faith is his credential. He got a
hmm
PhD in faith. But yeah, it's you
That's
can
crazy.
and oftentimes the people that do that have the biggest impact, versus the
Yeah,
linear
for
approach.
sure.
So, and then at this point, I've been around so many stories like that in a kind of weird way that has become my mind's norm,
hmm
is to expect it to be kind of weird. And a lot of these people have become friends and clients, and it's amazing. Even Cardone has become a client anytime we're in California. We
hmm
do his content for him, and it's never lost on me, man. I'm always in supreme gratitude for the fact that I could have very easily that one day been like, that's a stupid idea.
Right.
I'm not gonna drive there. What would my life have been? I,
We wouldn't be here talking today.
I yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
if someone wants to change their life in the next 12 months,
yeah.
what's the first step they should take?
I would say three things. Number one, environment. Actually,
Okay.
chances are, if someone is stuck, it's because either their physical environment or the people in their environment are in some way keeping them there. It
hmm
could be an unhealthy relationship. It could be where you live. It could be who your friends are. Um, it could be your job or where you're at most of the time. But I would say environment is humongous. I think that's super important. So number one, change your environment. Number two, change the questions you ask yourself. You ask your mind a question, it'll give it an answer, right? Thinking is nothing but the process of asking and answering questions in your head.
hmm
Our brain is a chat GPT, right? All thinking is the process of asking and answering questions.
hmm
What do I think about this? What do I want? Where do I want to go, right? If I ask any of the viewers watching or even yourself, hey, what color are your socks? You don't have to answer out loud. I guarantee you, your mind just went in there and
It
answered the
did.
question, right? You could ask someone, hey, what color is your underwear? What color is it? How much money is in your checkings account? You might not answer it out loud, but everyone will subconsciously go, you give a command to the brain, it'll answer.
hmm
And I think most people ask poor questions into the chat GPT of their mind. Just like you have to ask better questions, more refined distinctions in chat GPT, you got to do it in your brain. So instead of saying, God, how do I make more money and get out of this shitty situation? You could say, hey, what's the first three steps to get in a better environment today? Or, hey, what's one thing I can do today to, make more money? Or, hey, you can ask better questions and it'll lead to better ideas. So that's the second thing, ask better questions. And then the third thing is go surround yourself with where it's better, right? If you want to live in a nice area, if you want to drive a certain car, or you want to, you aspire to one day work at a company or whatever it is, go get around it, go get in proximity to it. I often tell people is, like I have a buddy of mine, perfect example. I have a buddy of mine that's, these people that are always depressed, always have bad news. I don't even need to talk to him to know when I pick up the phone, he's going to tell me
He's got a rain cloud over him.
what's wrong.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this guy, we were in our early 20s at the time, and we were just getting out of university, college, and he's got always complaining, saying it's hard to find a job, hard to do all this. And I was like, his name's Luis. I said, Luis, let me ask you this, bro. If life was perfect, what would you do? He was like, oh, I would be a journalist for the Lakers. He loves basketball, loves the Lakers. I was like, all right, cool, bro. I was like, have you tried? He's like, no. He's like, dude, I need experience. And I was like, well, why not? And he's like, well, I need experience. I need this. I need that. I was like, bro, fuck all that bullshit. I was like, give me your phone. I swear to God, as God is my witness, I grabbed the phone. I Google searched Lakers. It went down to the contact us. Clicked contact us. There's a phone number. Called the phone number. Ring, ring. Hi, this is the Lakers, whatever. And I was like, hi, yes. I was wondering if I could speak to somebody in the HR department. And they were like, yeah, one moment. They transferred me to Katie in HR. So now and I'm doing this in front of him right after he spent 10 minutes
telling you why he can't do
why
it.
he can't and why he did this and all the bullshit. We're 90 seconds into this call. Ring, ring, HR. And I'm like, hi, Katie. My name is Luis, and I'm actually a journalism student. I just graduated, and I would love to inquire about potentially interning for you guys or any entry-level positions in journalism. And she's like, oh, perfect timing. We're actually hiring
No way.
for that position. Give me 1 second. I'll see if Stephanie's in. She comes back. She goes, oh, actually, Stephanie's sitting at her desk right now. Would you like me to transfer you? And I look at him, and I'm like, yes, please. So we go, and I'm talking to Stephanie. I'm like, hi, Stephanie. My name's Luis. And she's like, oh, hey, Luis. I'm like, yeah, I just graduated from journalism. I've been a big fan of I don't know anything about the Lakers.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, I'm a big fan of the Lakers. And, just graduated. I would love to submit my resume, but wanted to, put a voice to the name and have a personal connection because I really, would love to put my best foot forward as a candidate for this position. And she's like, oh, thank you so much for calling, Luis. Yeah, absolutely. Here's my email. Make sure to CC this. I'll make sure I see it and put in a good word for you and da-da-da-da. And I was like, okay, perfect. I'll have that resume in within the next several hours. Thank you so much for your time. She's like, okay, cool. Thank you so much. Hang up the phone, and I look at him. And he was just like, what the fuck?
What the heck just happened?
But that's the reality that most people don't grab.
They don't take that initiative.
They don't grab that.
Yeah.
They just go, yeah, maybe one day. Let me think about it. Let's go out for dinner. Let me reflect on it. Let me journal. Make a plan.
Yeah.
I even had a buddy one time. He was like, oh, you should get Jim Carrey on. I was like, oh, that's a great idea. So I went to my phone, same thing. Google search, Jim Carrey. Who's he represented by? William Morris Agency. What's the number? Contact us. Boom. Click it. Ring, ring. What? Boom. Find his agent's name. Cool. Hi, William Morris. Hi, I was wondering if Dylan was in, right? Dylan was his agent or whatever. Hi, I was wondering if Dylan was in. Oh, 1 second. Go to his voicemail. Within 90 seconds of my friend talking about Jim Carrey, I'm leaving a voicemail on his agent's thing with no connection. Moving like that over a year, 2 years, 3 years, you generate very different results in life.
Absolutely.
Than if you just sit there and feel your feelings and think about things and
wonder
plan.
and hesitate.
And that's what most people do. They don't fucking grab it. They don't take imperfect action. And so as a result, you get more of the same.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Haven ASG. Looking to buy your first private aircraft or upgrade your current bird? Travis and the team at Haven Aviation Services Group has you covered. From finding the jet of your dreams to selling your old model, our expert brokerage teams handle every detail, connecting you to the right deal for the right aircraft every time. Visit havenasg.com/Flyin High today for your custom experience to begin. Again, that's havenasg.com/Flyin High, or just click the link in the show notes. Now back to the show.
What's the question successful people ask themselves that unsuccessful people never do?
Ooh, that's a great question. Who can help me?
Who, not how, right?
Who, not how. That's right.
It's a great book.
Who, not how. Yeah. You know what's funny about that is I love that book.
I do
and
too.
What's cool is by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. One of the greatest blessings of my life is that I can read a book. So I know him. I've had him on the show. He's become a friend of mine.
Oh, wow.
So I could read the book, take a photo, and be like, hey, when you wrote this, what do you mean? And he'll send me a voice memo explaining.
No
I'm
way.
like, holy shit,
That
bro.
is
The
crazy.
authors are the homies.
Yeah.
But I love that book in particular. Who, not how. So I think that's number one, is I think people who get stuck, oh, hey, I want to launch this app, or I want to launch this website. Yeah, but I'm trying to learn how to develop. I'm taking a development class, all that.
Go hire a developer.
Go hire a developer, or find your friend who's down and give them a piece of it. Move fast, So I think who, not how is number one. And then the second question is, what can I do? Right? Because a lot of times you might not be able to attack the full problem, but there's a piece of it you can.
You can do something all the time.
Yeah, you can do something. What can I do? Who can help me? That's it. But doing it with urgency. Yeah, I think those
I call it aggressive patience.
Yeah. I think Ed calls it blissful dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's It's a balance of staying cool energetically, but aggressive in action.
For sure.
Because it's always going to take more than you think to solve a problem.
Yeah.
So you want to have intense action ready to roll. But yeah, I think if you do that on a long enough time horizon, things work in your favor.
That's great. That Who Not How book was very impactful to me personally. Like,
Yeah.
learned a lot of lessons out of that book. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the book is all about, if I get stuck on how, that's the wrong question to ask.
And I'm one of those I was guilty of that for years. Like, I'd have a problem, I would never figure out who to solve the problem. It was always me. I've got to solve the problem.
Right.
I'm the hero of the story, and like,
Yes.
I'm gonna go teach myself how to code. I'm gonna go teach myself this, and it took me many years and learning from that book to break that pattern of
Yes.
saying I don't need to know how to do everything. I need to know who to connect with to do everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And not only that, there's also layers to it too, right? Like I remember one of my buddies who's now the CEO of Acquisition with Alex and Layla
Mm-hmm.
Hermosi. His name is Sharon Srivatsa.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had Sharon on the podcast, and I remember telling him like, dude, I'm having a really hard time hiring people, and I just can't figure it out. I'm spending all this time. I get the who not how thing, but I'm having a hard time finding out the how to find the who's, right?
Right.
So it's like, conundrum. And he goes, why don't you just find someone to hire them?
Right.
And I was like, oh shit, I never thought about
Another
that.
who.
Yeah, another
Right.
who. Find another who to do that.
Yeah.
But most people feel guilty delegating, or they have limiting beliefs about money.
Right.
But what I found is like when you're convicted, like when I started the show, like I mentioned, I didn't have any money. So my who was I found a videographer, and I negotiated a 50-50 rev share deal. I said any revenue that comes in from the show or sponsors, I'll give you a piece of. Anything we do separate is separate, but anything related to the show directly, and we stated in terms, we'll give you 50-50 down the line. So in the beginning, he worked for me for free pretty much for the first 3 or 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
But, by the end of that first year, he was probably pulling in like $8,000 a month,
Mm-hmm.
which is just, at the time, disproportionately more than any other video guy could be making. But he rode with me early on for zero. I didn't have any money, so I got resourceful on the how.
Yeah, he was taking a risk as well.
He was taking a risk as well, and so it worked out great for both of us
Mm-hmm.
as it grew. But that was resourcefulness being the ultimate resource.
For sure.
Because if I would have been like, well, I can't do a show because I can't afford it,
Mm-hmm.
I would have never been resourceful to call the sponsors, negotiate a net 30 invoice,
Right.
do all these different things. But when you're committed, you will find the way, and you will attract the people who are on the mission. And so I think most people wait till all the ducks are in a row.
For sure. Ducks are never in a row.
Never. Jump in the fucking water.
Yeah.
Jump
Just
in
go
the water.
swim, man.
Jump in the water and call the ducks.
So, what is your framework for turning a personal brand into revenue generation?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I would say it's 3 components. Number 1 is you have to have an idea of who your avatar niche is,
Mm-hmm.
because that allows you to sort of steer the ship accordingly. Number 2 is a lot of people don't talk about this, but I think especially nowadays, a lot of people focus on selling. For me, my obsession and my recommendation to people is to focus on the fulfillment piece.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do a great job of fulfilling? Because if you can do a great job on fulfilling, you won't have a hard time generating sales over and over. But on the contrary, if you're just selling stuff, you get lost in the sauce. So I think if you know your audience, focus on what you can fulfill on. And then number 3 is have calls to action after you give the value to your content, right?
Value first and
Value
ask later,
first.
yeah.
Correct. I think especially now more than ever, if you can, know your audience, know who you're giving value to, you have calls to action to further help them, and you're focusing on something that you're great at with fulfillment, you'll be able to have leverage. I think a lot of times what people do is they start creating something out of a passion content-wise,
Mm-hmm.
and then they go, okay, I have an audience, but what do I sell them, right? We all know these TikTokers who, got millions of views by doing dances,
Right.
and they're totally broke and can't do anything with it. So I think if you nail those 3 things, you start to get people to know, like, and trust you. Because at the end of the day, that's all business is, right?
For
Any
sure.
business, whether you sell shoes or airplanes, it's people have to know you, which is your content. They have to like you, which is like the value inside of it for that
Right.
niche. and they have to trust you. And they trust you by A, your content being good, B, your fulfillment being good, and C, you being consistent.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people have these different strategies and formulas, but I think if you focus on those three on a long enough time horizon, things will come to you and things will grow.
Just got to stick with it long enough for it to work, right?
Yeah. And if you enjoy it, you'll probably be better at it than anybody else. The other thing too is to build a team.
Mm-hmm.
I think I see that a lot. I think most people, there's a great expression. It's like, I forget who told me, but they said there's no such thing as hiring perfectly. You either hire too fast or hire too slow.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always better to hire too fast,
Mm-hmm.
because you can always fire. And when you say hire fast, I don't mean you don't hire unqualified. It means you hire qualified, but you're willing to move fast at getting them out of the position if they're not right.
Right.
But I think a lot of times entrepreneurs in general, their ideas are only as good as the team to execute it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you have an idea for your business to grow it, but you don't have anybody to operate that part of it, the thought falls on deaf ears. But if you have, the right team members in place, now it expands your ability of what else can we do? What else can we offer? What else can we expand, right?
That's totally where I rely on my team so heavily, is because I'm a one-man wrecking crew on let's go, 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 go.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're going to move to the next front line. We're going to go, we're going to go, we're going to go. And if I was the only one doing it, it would be complete failure on delivery, complete failure on execution. Like all the things would fall apart behind me. I'm good at busting through the wall and being the lead charge on it.
Mm-hmm.
But without the phenomenal team behind me that's like collecting all the pieces and actually executing and delivering what I'm committing to people, I wouldn't be able to go commit that to people, because ethically and morally I couldn't do it if I didn't know my team would be behind me to
100%.
deliver that. So it's 100% a team sport, and
100%.
it's not anything you can do on any kind of scale alone.
Right. And customers and consumers feel that, because most people's service sucks, or is mid at best, average at best. So when you go the extra mile, especially in this day and age, people feel that, and they'll pay a premium for it. And they'll go the extra mile. An example of that is I have a buddy of mine that I'm a partner in a digital marketing agency with, and they ended up getting Ryan Serhant as a client from $1 Million Listing New York. Ryan had posted a thing on his Instagram like, hey, I need some help with marketing. I'm looking to hire a marketing agency. So me and my guy were partners in the agency. And he's like, dude, I want to get Ryan as a client. Do you know him, or do you know anybody that knows him? And I have met him before, but I didn't have a relationship or rapport or his number or anything. But there was like hundreds of people applying and commenting and all this. And he was like, what should we do? And I was like, dude, you know what we should do? We should add value in advance. So we ended up paying to make a full-on funnel, a landing page. We rebranded his website. We essentially made the base as if he already hired us as a client.
Right.
And then when we emailed him, we said, hey, Ryan, we'd love to work with you. And we're so confident in our ability to work with you and be the solution you need, that instead of just emailing you like everybody else, we went ahead and actually made, a portion of the assets that we know you need help with a video explaining why we did it this way and whatever. He responded right away. We ended up getting him as a client, and they ended up doing millions of dollars in sales that we got a piece of the upside on. And so it's like moving like that, you know what I mean? And to make that site and all that took a couple $100.
Right.
Just
took the initiative.
Took the initiative.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have partners that could do that, maybe wouldn't have, right?
Right.
So I feel like moves like that are what create leverage. And in the beginning, people might be like, oh, well, I don't know anybody, or I don't have partners, or I don't have friends. You have something. Start with what you know and let it grow. And I think most people just let the excuses live on, and so they don't see the opportunities, right? I think most people are sitting in rooms of opportunity that they're not capitalizing on. If we turn the lights off in this aircraft right now, it would be pitch black. There would be no mics or cameras or whatever. But you flip a switch, turn the light on. Oh, wow, we got mics, we got a camera. There's a lot we can do. I think most people's lights are off, and if they flip the switch, the lights turn on. They see all the tools that are accessible to them, but most people just don't want to flip the switch because it's comfortable to stay in the dark.
More importantly, you flip the switch and you find a dub.
Yep. That's another one.
That's a who, man.
That's right.
If your life's mission was written on a billboard for everyone to see, what would it say?
So that's a beautiful question because I just came from a Tony Robbins event, like where we worked on that on a big ass poster.
Nice.
But I would say it's twofold, right? One is externally, one is internally.
Mm-hmm.
So my internal one for me personally is that I, Omar, see, hear, feel, and know that the purpose of my life is to be God's version of Omar, enjoy every day's blessings, and be a light for myself and others.
Nice.
That's my personal mission statement. My external one, in terms of service, with the show and my body of work, is to humanize greatness one story at a time. Because content can get old,
Mm-hmm.
things can get old, but stories last forever, right? Whether you're a Muslim, a Jew, a Buddhist, a Christian, any religion on earth, there's not new books coming around. It's the same stories taught in different ways in different contexts. Stories are timeless. And so for me, I feel like stories change the world, man. And, we've been able to not only grow our show and reach millions of people through telling stories, but we've also been able to, build homes in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
We're going on a mission trip to Kenya in June, and we're going to build an orphanage and a school and a hospital. And because of the business we have, we're able to, a portion of everything we do, we always give back: hygiene kits, haircuts, homeless shelters.
Mm-hmm.
And we're working on it for Christmas. We're getting an In-N-Out truck to give out, double doubles to the homeless, and giving out books for Think and Grow Rich. And we're doing all these cool things. And for me, the fact that we're able to do that, the fact that I was once driving my car to Beverly Hills broke trying to do stuff. And now, because of what we've been able to do, telling stories,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because stories change the world. I think that's why, millions of people enjoy podcasts and interviews.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know the story because they see themselves trying to live their story.
Right.
So I wanted to humanize greatness one story at a time so that people watching see a Rick Ross and go, fuck, easy for him.
Yeah.
But then you realize, damn, he worked at a car wash in his teens.
Right.
Dang, he worked at TSA. A lot of people don't know that.
They don't just go poof, I'm here. Like,
right.
There's a story.
Right. I even interviewed Andrew Tate in Romania, which that's another crazy story. But
I can imagine.
But when I interviewed Andrew Tate, this tough guy, and people see him on social, and then you see that he worked at a fish market. Then he was an IT guy for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine Andrew Tate being an IT guy? But when I interview them and they share this stuff, for me, I know that there's people listening and go, holy shit, I'm an IT guy.
Right.
Or not that Tate is their hero, but you get what I mean. It's
They
there's
see themselves becoming whatever else.
Whatever they want to be.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be in a weird position now, or it not make sense or whatever.
Everyone starts somewhere.
Right. And all it takes is 2 or 3 moves to change your life. You think it takes 300. It's really like, if you were to calculate, obviously you made a lot of moves to get to where you're at, but if you were to actually boil it down to the few moves or phone calls that got you in position, it was probably only 2 or 3. Like maybe stuff kept you there or got you to different levels, but in terms of the things that randomly 10x your life, it was something you launched, a call you made, an email you sent.
It always comes down to 2 or 3, right?
Yeah, guts you had to ask a question. And most people will live 20, 30 years not creating those 2 or 3 moments that are magic moments.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I think about it. Yeah.
It's very inspiring. I love it.
Yeah.
You've covered a lot on all the craziness that it took to get here, but as of now, with what, you've built something pretty phenomenal, but I know it's not all sunshine and rainbows still.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some things you still struggle with or currently struggling with in
Yeah.
building your business and your brand and everything right now?
Yeah, a team.
Team. It's
Team.
always people.
Yeah, people.
Yeah.
And also because of what we do, it's in a very showy industry.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, our video guys, people are constantly, like our full-time guys, our editors, and all, people are constantly trying to hire them and pay them triple.
Mm-hmm.
Or, so you have to really make it worthwhile for them to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Or, for example, there's times where, for example, when we interviewed Andrew Tate, we lost $500,000 in sponsorships.
Really?
Yeah, which was a significant revenue hit. So I had to make the choice, like, do I do it, and why am I doing it, and is it worth it overall, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like these questions. So a lot of it is navigating nuance,
Mm-hmm.
making decisions, hiring people, being a better leader. I
Mm-hmm.
think my nature is a creative. I think I've gotten good at managing people and building a great team. but I think it wasn't my nature. My nature is very much an artist, a communicator, a feeler, a connector. In business, you have to be more strategic and neutral and put the right people in place. So I think for me, it's the biggest area of growth is people, putting the right people in position.
And it's hard when you're a lover of people and a lover of people's stories to make those hard decisions and be the quote unquote bad guy sometimes, and it's more challenging when you're a very highly sensitive people person.
Right, when you care about people, you know, and I also know what it's like to be fired, you know, and I know what it's like to be a good person and be fired because you messed up for a week or a month or whatever it is, and or you go through a breakup or whatever it is you're dealing with. But I also know from an employer's perspective, like, hey, that affected this or that, you know, so those types of lessons. But I often joke when people say, you know, what have you been up to? I say hiring, firing, and inspiring.
So true, right?
Yeah, that's my MO, hiring, firing, and inspiring.
So who believed in you before you believed in you?
I hate to sound like DJ Khaled, but God did.
Yeah.
Man, to be honest, man, there was a lot of, in the beginning, nobody, man.
Yeah.
And, you know, even my parents were like, what the hell are you doing? You went to college. Why are you doing this? This is embarrassing. My dad's an engineer. Oh yeah, dude.
Hey, he loaned you his pants to go see Grant, man.
Yeah. Well, he didn't know about that one.
You took him, huh?
That was an unofficial borrow.
Yeah.
Which is funny because if you go and watch that interview, sometimes I go back to watch and I think it's so funny, man. Literally, I'm wearing my dad's shoes and my dad's dress pants. And dress socks. It's so fun. I couldn't afford a suit. Even early on, I did some interviews where I would go to Nordstrom and I would actually buy a suit because they had a great return policy. So I would buy a fucking suit, film the interview, and then go right after the interview back to Nordstrom and return it.
I don't like it.
I mean, that's how, I mean, I'm not a cheap person per se, but
you got to do what you got to do.
At the time, I was just doing what I had to do, you know, But yeah, man, in that era, I really, maybe my video guy Luis, he believed in the vision. I have to give him tremendous credit for that because it makes no sense. Like, hey, bro, I'm gonna interview all these. I'm gonna go. We're both broke. Let's interview people, create impact, and then build a business on the back end of it. Sounds nuts, but he believed in it, and my audio engineer Kevin. That was it, man. Other than that, constant text from mom and dad, what are you doing? It's embarrassing. They would lie and tell their friends that, like, what's Omar up to? Oh, he's in school still. Or like, you know, but now they're all proud and happy and show their friends and my aunts and uncles, and my mom wants to come to watch interviews in person and stuff, you know, so it's all good. It worked out.
Well, and we covered that earlier on our other episode as well, that a lot of times it's very well-intentioned, close people to you that inadvertently are the ones holding you back from your true purpose, that they think they're protecting you. Sometimes it gets into kind of an ego thing, and they don't do it ill meaning. It's just from their perspective and where they're at, they just feel like you're going down the wrong path. They can't wrap their head around your purpose. And so I think it's important to figure out a way to navigate not hurting those people close to you while ignoring everything they tell you.
And I understand that it's well intentioned too, you know, but I just saw the vision, man, and I
chased it.
Once I saw the vision, I felt pulled, to be honest with you. I think that's another thing too, is, you know, common denominator of successful people is I feel like a lot of times they were more pushed than pulled. I'm sorry, they were more pulled than pushed. Meaning the vision of the opportunity or the vague idea
pulling harder.
Pulled them to stay up late, work late, do the thing. Like they were more versus like, oh, I don't feel like doing it, but fuck it, it'll be worth it one day, and pushing. Like at some level there has to be a compulsion because you're competing with people who are pulled and teams who are pulled. The most conviction usually wins. In life and business and anything, sport.
So for the audience member, listener that's tuned in right now, that's just feeling completely stuck and they don't know what to do, what is the question they need to ask themselves before they go to bed tonight?
Question I would ask myself is, if life was perfect, what would happen next? that question changed the course of my life forever, because it opened up the possibility. I think most people's lives, they don't change primarily because they never ask the question that can give them new answers. They never make that distinction. And so you ask your brain a question, it'll give you an answer. If you say, why am I broke, or why is this happening to me, or why do I have this job? Your brain will give you an answer. But if you say, what can I do? How can I turn this around? What is good? What is the opportunity? What could I do? If life was perfect, where would I work? What company would I work? What team would I work for? Get excited about what's possible, and then just take that first imperfect action that makes no sense. If I give you a tangible thing, if people are stuck, I would say think of your favorite company or industry in the world and send an email or a text message or a phone call and just get the ball rolling. Sometimes in a disproportionate way it works out. An example of this is, my background was in skateboarding. And one of the things I went through was a depression after school because I was like, fuck, I came from a love of skateboarding. And skateboarding, you can probably relate to this because you used to skate, is it gives you the thrill of the stoke and being with your boys and sweating. And so it becomes very challenging in normal life to replicate that same sensation or high or whatever. So I wanted to work for skate companies. So one night I had a couple drinks and smoked a little something, and I just wrote this list of all these dream companies I'd want to work for, and it was like Volcom, Quicksilver, Tony Hawk, just whatever I could think of. It didn't even make any sense. And I literally just wrote a template email, like a copy paste. Hi, my name's Omar, blah blah blah, and I literally just tried to find any email on the site, didn't even matter, info@Volcom or whatever it was. And I just cold emailed 50 companies one night because I had to get a job after college. So I was literally, I procrastinated. And one night I was like, tonight's the night. So I got a buzz going and I just shipped off 50 emails. I got, I think 3 emails back. And then I got 1 interview with a company called Flip Skateboards. I go to Flip and I didn't get the job. But when I didn't get the job, right, and my point to this is like just pursue the thing that's interesting because it might lead to something else that you might not see. So I didn't get the job at Flip, but the guy that interviewed me took a liking to me, and he was like, I don't think you're right for this position, but I'll keep you in mind for anything else. So when he emailed me and told me that I don't think you're the right person, I literally wrote him back and I was like, hey Andrew, thank you so much for your time. At the time I got into Buddhism and meditation. So I was like, hey, Andrew, thank you so much. If it wasn't meant to be, no problem, all good. I'd love to reapply next year, and please let me know if there's any qualifications or things I could do better to be a better candidate next year. And he responds back the next day, and he's like, wow, dude. He goes, your email reply not getting hired was better than the guy that we ended up hiring. I have no doubt with that attitude you'll go far. I'll keep you in mind. So I was like, thank you. I didn't think anything much of it. Fast forward, probably like a month or 2 later, I get a phone call, and it's him. His name's Andrew Schusterman. Changed my life. And he goes, hey, man, there's a job opening at another skate company. Are you still looking for work? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, all right, I'll put you in touch. I get an email from Rob Dyrdek's team at the Fantasy Factory. And long story short, the guy who had interviewed me was a team manager that was best friends or really good friends with the general manager of Street League Skateboarding, who's like the co-CEO with Rob. Like, it doesn't even make sense how that happened. And and I guess in passing, Rob had mentioned Rob Dyrdek from the show and the business and the pro skater and all that. And at the time, Rob was huge, like the #1 show on MTV many times over. So Rob had mentioned in passing, like, oh yeah, I need some entry-level guys for whatever, and if you know anybody. And Andrew was like, oh, I just interviewed this kid who's like has a really good attitude. So he put in a word. 2 months later, I'm working at the Fantasy Factory with Rob Dyrdek, and I was on the last season of Rob and Big's Fantasy Factory. And I got to hang out with Rob. I got to skate. I got to meet all my pro skater heroes. I got to meet all these cool celebrities. I got to see how an MTV show works. And I got a job at like literally the #1 skate company ever, and on the MTV show, and it built my confidence to learn how to communicate at that level. But if you trace the cord back to the wall, it starts with me sending emails with zero connection
Right.
and a good attitude when I got rejected.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, and I had so many friends like, dude, how did you get that? Dude, that's amazing. Can you take me with? I would, if I liked girls and stuff, I'd be like, well, I'll play your cards right. I'll bring you to the fantasy factory.
Let you meet Rob.
Yeah, exactly. Let me meet Rob and all that. So I ended up working there for several years, and I got a bunch of free stuff from Nike because we were sponsored by Nike. I got to travel all over the country, all expenses paid, got per diems, got to hang out with all the top pros in the world. I got to go to arenas and X Games and all, and I got to meet all the owners of all these companies, and it was crazy because literally it started with me sending an email, not getting hired,
Right.
but that one email being positive
Mm-hmm.
opened up the whole thing. And I think most people, they don't think in those inches or the human touch.
And it's such an anomaly to have a positive response to not getting hired like that. Like most people be like, "Oh, fuck that guy,"
Or not
they don't
replying.
know what they're missing. Like get
Or
all
attitude.
vindictive and hateful about it. And so that stands out whenever you respond that way, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of Rob, I mean, you talk about one of the most phenomenal entrepreneurs out there. Holy cow, that guy's amazing. And then to be around him and his environment, I mean, it just helps further elevate your ceiling on what you think is possible and how you do things.
Oh, 100%. How you do business, how you negotiate. I would see him do all sorts of stuff and learn all these sorts of lessons. But yeah, sometimes I'd be on airplanes and I'm like, how am I on an airplane with Nike for pro skater? Like a lot of it doesn't make sense. But my whole career has been built upon stacking anomaly situations.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that they're habitually anomalies, there's a formula to it.
For sure.
Right? And that formula is how you think, how you move. And
once is an accident, the rest of them are not.
Right. Exactly. And I'm sure you can attest to that, Sometimes in the beginning, though, it's probably the scariest in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
The big secret that I've learned is that everybody in a higher position did that too.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a soft spot for you when you do the ballsy thing.
Right.
Most people assume that people at the top are these big tough guys that are like gatekeepers that are, but
no, they all had to do it.
Right. And so when you're the guy that just speaks to that, they feel it.
Yeah.
Because they were once like you with a dream and a scary anxiety, but they felt the fear and did it anyways. And so usually they'll push the ladder back down to kind of help you up because they see you in them. So
absolutely.
And that's similar to what you've mentioned, but yeah, that's what I've seen.
Was there anything we haven't touched on that you think our listeners would benefit from knowing?
I think we touched on everything. I mean, the one final thing I would say is that, similar to what you said, is if you have a dream, an idea, an inkling, an itch to do more, to be more, and you feel like you have a long way to go, it means you're destined to go a long way. And I think the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think most people get stuck is, well, what do I do next? Like, this is all great in theory. We listen to this. This is cool. But what do I do right now? I have, $13 in my bank account or whatever they have. I'm in this exact situation. What's like what do I do like in the next hour or like today or tomorrow? And for me, it starts with moving in the direction of, right? So when you ask yourself a question, hey, if life was perfect, what would happen next? What would I move in the direction of? What company would I want to work for? Who would I want to work for? What industry would I want to work in? And if you don't have those answers, move in those directions. If you do and you want to move up, get curious about it. Interact with what you want, right? If you want to get promoted, ask the guy who's in the position you want, hey, what advice do you have to get in that position? Maybe because you asked him that, he'll have a soft spot for you and promote you. But I think most people never ask. And like ChatGPT, right? Our brain is a ChatGPT. If you never ask the question, you'll never get the answer you want. Our life is a direct reflection of the questions we ask ourselves.
We're our own prompt engineers.
That's right. We're our own prompt engineers. So if you don't like the results or the answers of your life, ask new questions and you'll get a new life.
It's phenomenal. You guys make sure you go and check out The Passionate Few. That's Omar's podcast. Where can they find that at?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram at Omar the Rockstar or at The Passionate Few podcast. We're on all podcast platforms globally, YouTube, Apple, Spotify. We're on all audio and video platforms worldwide. And we look forward to checking out our interviews, including our recent one with Travis, to hear his incredible story as well.
Omar, thank you for your time. Thank you very much. Flyin High fans, Omar is obviously the epitome of flying high. Hope you guys enjoy, and thank you very much.
Appreciate you guys. Make sure to subscribe and grab an airplane with this guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have been cleared for takeoff. You are now flying high with Travis Lamance.